In this video, we're going to talk about the process of how a bill becomes a law in the Senate. So remember, in the past video, I talked about the process of how the bill went through the House of Representatives. It passed the subcommittee, the full committee. It went to the floor. The rules were voted on. They passed. The bill was debated. It passed, and so it came to the Senate. Once it arrives at the Senate Majority Leader is going to assign Phil's Corn Law to the Agricultural Committee. Now, if you note on the lecture notes, I'm referring to it as Phil's Corn Law 1. And that will become evident as to why I'm calling it Phil's Corn Law 1 or version 1 in a moment. So the Senate Majority Leader sends it to the Agricultural Committee. Right now, if you recall, in the Senate this committee is actually called the Nutrition, Forestry, and Agricultural Committee. I'm just going to call it the Agricultural Committee, but it's the same committee that we talked about before. The chair of the Agricultural Committee in the Senate is going to assign Phil's Corn Law 1 to the appropriate subcommittee. And in that subcommittee, they're going to do a markup just like the subcommittee did in the House of Representatives. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, well, why are they just duplicating the process? Why are they doing the exact same thing? Well, remember, members of the House of Representatives represent small districts, right? Senators represent entire states. And so if I'm a representative from the 3rd Congressional District in Nebraska, and I've just got farmers in my district, that's at 95% of my district is farmers, I'm going to be worried about one particular thing. But if I'm a senator from California, for example, I definitely have an area of California that is primarily interested in agriculture, the Central Valley. But I also have parts of California that are interested in technology, right? I also have areas that are interested in the movie business. I also have areas that are interested in maritime issues, ocean-going trade and commerce, right? There's a diverse group. And so I want to give everybody in my state an opportunity to speak. So I might hear more diverse opinions in the Senate than somebody might hear in the House of Representatives. So that's the idea. So back to the main point. The subcommittee in the Senate is going to hold a markup. Interest groups are going to come in, give their views, make suggestions on what should be added, subtracted, changed from the bill. Once they've all provided their testimony, then they're going to hold the markup. Amendments are going to be proposed. They're going to be voted on. Some will pass, some will fail. And so it's the same process as the House. Now, 2 things I want to talk to you about. The first thing is only going to be relevant when we talk about the presidency later on. If you recall, in the House of Representatives, somebody proposed what I call the popcorn amendment. Right? I know this is kind of a dumb example, but it's simple and easy to understand. The popcorn amendment, all it proposed doing was everywhere in the Phil's Corn Law that it said corn, right, regulating corn in some way, it wanted to amend it so it said corn and popcorn. In other words, the person who proposed the amendment wanted Phil's Corn Law to be essentially Phil's Corn and Popcorn Law. It failed in the House. It failed again in the Senate. So I just want you to keep that in the back of your head, that the popcorn amendment failed in the House of Representatives and it failed in the Senate. Or, in other words, and this is the key point, Congress has no intentions of regulating popcorn. Now, in the same subcommittee hearing, somebody proposes the Barley Amendment. Now, barley is just a different grain, and I just had to think of an amendment that would be relevant to Phil's Corn Law just for the purposes of this discussion. So what somebody proposes in the subcommittee is an amendment that says that every time corn is mentioned, it'll say corn and barley. Like they essentially want to change Phil's Corn Law to be effectively Phil's Corn and Barley Law. And for the purposes of our discussion, and then for the purposes of the exam, we're going to assume that the Barley Amendment passes. And so now the bill that passed the House that I was referring to as Phil's Core Law 1 is different than the bill in the Senate. And so now, because the bill in the Senate has different language, it regulates barley, I'm going to be referring to that as Phil's Core Law 2. Again, it's a different bill because it has different language in it. And in order for a bill to go to the president, the House and the Senate have to pass the exact same bill. Well, the House has passed Phil's Core Law 1. Now the Senate is working on what is effectively Phil's Core Law 2. And we're going to assume that a majority in the subcommittee support Phil's Core Law 2, and so it goes to the full committee. And in the full committee, they're going to do the same thing that they did in the subcommittee. They're going to have a markup. They're going to hold hearings, right? They're going to get input. They're going to make suggestions. In this case, we're going to assume that all of them fail, but the Barley Amendment stays in. And so a majority support Phil's Core Law 2 in the full committee in the Senate. And so now that bill can go to the floor. That's a key point. Think about it. In the House of Representatives, when the full committee passed the bill went to the Rules Committee in the House. There is no Rules Committee, for all practical purposes, in the Senate. There is a Rules Committee, but it actually deals with something entirely different. But there's no Rules Committee where you determine how much time is going to be spent debating a bill or who can amend, anything like that. So Phil's Core Law goes to the floor. But here's the thing. I told you in the House that a bill can't go to the floor unless there's an adopted set of rules. Well, Phil's Core Law 2 can't go to the floor of the Senate unless somebody can end debate. Unless somebody can end debate. And so this is the process of ending debate, and that'll make more sense. If you recall when I talked about the filibuster, the way I explained it is I would stand up. If I was, now I'm the senator from Nebraska, I stand up and I am recognized by the presiding officer, and I say I motion to open debate on Phil's Core Law 2. Right? The presiding officer will say what? Are there any objections? Right? And at that point, a filibuster can start. Right? Now, here's the thing. Usually the way it works in the Senate is through something called unanimous consent. Unanimous consent. And what that means is that if I know that my bill is coming to the floor in the Senate, I'm a senator now, I've magically become a senator. If I know a bill is coming to the floor in the Senate, then what happens is I would go around to every senator and I would say, hey, look, we're going to be debating this bill on Tuesday. Do you want to talk? And for how long do you want to talk? And some senators may say no. Some senators may say, yeah, I want to talk and give me 3 hours. Somebody else may say no. Somebody else may say, yeah, give me an hour and a half, right? A whole bunch of things. So what I would do is if I wanted to open debate on Phil's Core Law, I would ask the presiding officer, I'd motion to open the debate and to accept this unanimous consent agreement. And I would list off, I motion we open debate, after which we'll vote after Senator so-and-so speaks for 2 hours, Senator so-and-so speaks for an hour and a half, Senator so-and-so speaks for this long, and I would list everybody who's going to speak. And then I would say, afterwards, we'll have vote on the bill. And what's the presiding officer going to say? Are there any objections? If no one objects, then those now become the rules for debating the bill. All the senators are going to speak, and they're going to have opportunities to propose amendments and do whatever they want to do, right? And then when that time is up, then the bill is going to be voted on. Now, the only other way to end debate is through invoking closure. Remember, we talked about this already. If I want to end debate, I've got to be able to get 59 other people plus me to sign a closure petition to end debate. right? So I need 60 votes or 60 signatures really and debate in the Senate. If I'm able to get 60 signatures, even if somebody is filibustering, that's one of the only times you can ever interrupt a senator when they have the floor. You can say, Mr. President, I have a closure petition. You can bring it to the presiding officer in the Senate. As soon as they get the closure petition, that means that there's going to be 30 hours of debate, and then there's going to be a vote. During that 30 hours, no other amendments can be addressed. And at that point in the Senate, all amendments have to be germane. They have to be relevant to Phil's corn law. Previously, somebody could have proposed an amendment to increase the minimum wage to my bill, even though it has nothing to do with it. In the Senate, you can do that, right? But not after you invoke closure. Once closure is invoked, then that's it. All amendments have to be germane. We're going to assume that a majority supports Phil's corn law. So we'll assume that it doesn't matter whether it was unanimous consent or invoking closure. By the time debate ends, a majority supports it. Now we've got Phil's corn law 1 that passed the House. We have Phil's corn law 2 that passed the Senate. And so now I want to talk in the next video about what happens at that point.